Alright kids, how's it going guys? I'm gonna just let a few more people join and then we'll crack on with some great questions, some great answers. How's it going? Did I get a tattoo? No. I always thought about getting a tattoo, but I never got around to it, and now I feel the moment's passed. I don't think I shall get one, so no tattoos. Some familiar faces joining. How are you all doing? Hope your day is good. I'm currently in my dressing gown. That's how I like to conduct my Q&As. Very much in fur, in my dressing gown. When will you guys be in Brazil? I've said this before, but me and Theo always want to come to Brazil. We have a great fan base there, and it's surprising we've never been to South America. It's a place we both like to go for sure. And Brazil's a popular place for our music. We seen the Spotify numbers or whatever, and I always think to myself it'd be great to come. That goes for all of South America, but yeah, Brazil for sure. Mexico would be big as well. It'd be great to come there. Argentina. Some places were not big. Australia. So it's doubtful we'll be going there unless a miracle happens, but it'd be great to go there too. Taiwan. We had a great gig in Taiwan once. I don't know if you were there, that person, Granita, whether you were there, but it was 2011 maybe. What a show that was. Amazing. So I think we'll probably do another Indonesian tour at some point. And yeah, it'd be great to come back. Hey dude, love the new album, Love from London. Isn't it nice to be sent love from London, the city you live in? Hello to you, and I appreciate it. Very stylish rings. I have to say, these rings, I get asked about this a lot. These rings are by a friend of mine called Fangophilia. You can find him on Instagram. And he makes this custom jewelry using dental equipment. It's an amazing process. And I wanted some rings that I could play guitar and piano in, and he made me this as well. And he also made me like a cuff for my fist. He's a super talented guy. He's on Instagram, Fangophilia. You can find him. I think he lives in Japan, maybe. I might be wrong, but he's great. What's my favourite song off the album? I think I could really make a case for any of the songs on the album. It's an album, yeah, almost every single song I could say is my favourite in one way or another. I think recently Darkest Hour has become my favourite. I think some of that is the fact that you all seem to love that song so much. And it's got some guitars in it at the end that are a part of our band that we've never managed to put in a song before. It's very like 90s. I don't know if some of you know bands like My Bloody Valentine and kind of shoegazy music, very early 90s, noisy guitars. And I always wanted to put those sounds into a tune. And at the end of Darkest Hour, we used those sounds. So I think for my own perhaps selfish reasons, that one might be my favourite. But I love Redemption because it means a lot to me. I think it sounds like our band in a nutshell, in a moment. All I Have to Give was a very important song. What else? What else is on there? Love Numb. Absolutely love that tune. Fractured, Suffer. Numb was a really fun song to write, to make. I'm really glad that song's been appreciated a lot because It's a song that almost didn't make the record, but I think we're glad that it did. Okay, next question, here we go. What genre of films do you like? I like David Lynch films, David Cronenberg films, David Fincher films, all the Davids. Big Taiwanese fan base here. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I say, hopefully we can come back. Is the album Faith the last one? We shall wait and see. It certainly feels like the end of a chapter in some ways. If it is, it's a fitting end. If it's not, then we'll see what happens. Who knows what the future holds for any of us right now. Making another album currently seems, in this climate, not really something that we're going to be doing in the near future. So this album to me feels like the sort of end part of a journey. And I like that it feels like that. I think the first album and this album are like bookends somehow. So yeah, who knows? The future is unwritten. Alright guys, hello to everyone who's just joining. What is in my ear? Yeah, I've got some jewellery in here. And unfortunately, a lot of wax, because I produce a lot of earwax, much to the displeasure of anyone who's unfortunate enough to sleep with me finds when they find a surprise on the pillow. Disgusting. Will I take a role in the next music video? I get asked a lot about music videos, so I'll try and answer the best I can so we all understand. When you make a music video, you have a very short amount of time to tell a story. 3 minutes, sometimes 3.5 minutes. And a lot of the ideas that come in for our band from directors are very narrative-based ideas. That is to say, there's a storyline, there's an arc to the story, a beginning, a middle, and an end, a conclusion. And in 3 minutes, very rarely do you have time to tell the story of two people. And it's just incredibly difficult to fit in two separate narratives into one video that is understandable to the viewer. You want to keep things simple enough that the viewer is able to connect with it. You don't want to complicate it for the sake of it. And for me, when it comes to videos, most of the treatments and ideas that we get in tend to be narrative videos. And Theo's a fantastic actor, great performer. He's the front man of our band, and it makes a lot of sense for Theo to take the lead in those. I've never really had much ambition with videos when it comes to myself, partly because I didn't grow up with videos. Music videos weren't part of my culture growing up. I didn't have MTV. And Theo loves videos, loves making them. And so we tend to just work the way we do. Sometimes if there's a performance video like Redemption, I have a big involvement in it, and that's fine. But when it comes to narrative videos, it often comes down to space, there not being enough space for two separate stories to be told. So for me, it's easier to step back and for the greater good of the band. So that hopefully will answer that question, because I know a lot of people are asking why I'm not in videos more. And hopefully that's given you some insight. Which album from the album was the most meaningful? I think for me the most meaningful song on the album is All I Have to Give. I think we were both struggling at that point of the album. It was halfway through, and I think we were not sure if it was going to work out or not. And Theo was struggling, and I remember in this struggle he wrote these incredible words, an incredible melody out of nowhere. In the space of a few minutes, he wrote this melody, and I was just a witness to it, really. And I remember it being a turning point because I realized he was onto something special, and from that point on, with songs like Redemption and Darkest Hour, my role began to be, I wanted to clear space for him because I felt he was onto something special. with his words and his melodies, and he was going to a very deep place in him, and I wanted to clear space for that. And I think that's why in songs like All I Have to Give and Redemption, Darkest Hour, there's a lot of room for the vocals, because it was about allowing space for Theo to tell his story. And I think All I Have to Give was a turning point for that sort of thing, because often the music dictates how our songs sound, whereas from that point on it was the vocals that did it, and my role was very much to support that. What about Paul? For those who don't know, Paul is the drummer in our band and he's a legend. What about him? I think you should ask him yourself. He's still in love with a cat. We all have loves. His is his cat. I think he's very happily married to himself and his cat. What have we got? What happened at the concert in Zurich last year? In Zurich last year, I fainted on the stage. I had a problem. I sometimes get problems with my breathing on the stage. It's nothing to worry about. I just hold my breath sometimes. Sometimes if I sing, I get lightheaded. It's probably bad technique. And I remember that night particularly, I was having problems the whole gig and the gig before. And I decided to pass out in front of loads of people, and I'm sorry to anyone who came to that gig. I felt terrible about it. Hopefully we get a chance to come back to Zurich and make up for it. But yeah, I don't think I ever truly apologised for it, but I do feel gutted about it. So anyone who paid their money and came to that gig, humble apologies from me. I'm sure it won't happen again. Were you a lover with Paul? Never lovers. But great friends, massive friends, really huge pals. Will we come back to Italy? I hope so. Italy's a place we used to go to a lot in the early part of the band, and then suddenly we stopped going, but I miss it. I like it. How strong is my belief in sorcerers and magicians? First, I didn't see your name then, you disappeared, but first prize for best question. How much do I believe in sorcery and magicians? I'm not even going to answer, but it's a beautiful question. How's your health now? Perfect. Did you design the merch yourself? We design everything ourselves. It's 2020. You got to do it all yourself as we're figuring out all the photographs, album artwork, photography, tour posters, merch. Every aspect of the band that you can think of pretty much has come from us this time, and I am exhausted, frankly. But it's been worth it, because hopefully you guys are getting some great artwork, some interesting photography. So I'm super proud of what we've done. Say something in Russian, alright? Spokojno. Spokojno. You guys drive too fast. So I often use that in taxis. Who's asking these questions? You guys, Monica. So, Adam, do you like the Pet Shop Boys? Not really, to be honest. I feel bad saying that, but then I listen to their songs and don't like them that much. Obviously, I like West End Girls and the classics. Apart from that, I'd probably say not really. I'm not sure they're fans of us either. We get compared to each other too much, so I'd probably say, let's just leave it. Let's have a look at this question box. Old Muller, your beard got out of control. That's not a question, mate. Well, you're probably right. Kate Sharap, do you have a girlfriend? I barely have time for myself, so the answer is unfortunately not. If you want to apply, there's a strict application process, but I could currently I have no partner. How do I relax from the same girl? Very personal questions from you, Kate. I'm not gonna divulge. Let's have a look at what else we've got. What's your favourite Russian meal? It's really boring, but I'm going to say borscht. So boring. God, that annoys me that I've gone so boring, but the fact is, I eat a lot of it. What else have we got? How would you react if the interviewer messed up your name? That has happened before. Someone kept calling me Andy. In fact, it was on we were reading off a television like Vidi printer, so we could, read what they wanted us to, and it kept saying Theo and Andy. For a period, I enjoyed it, but then I actually don't like the name Andy, so I prefer a better one like Bartholomew or, Maximus, something like this. What else have we got? Have you ever used the sound of a cassette player or rain in your music? We certainly have. If you listen to our album Exile and the song The Crow, you will hear the sound of rain. Have you ever used the sound of a cassette player? Certainly. In the song Numb on Faith, you'll hear that. Midway through the song, there's a crying sound that was put through a tape player. There you go. What else have we got? This is from AKA Hirugic. Sorry, mate, I can't really pronounce your name properly. Adam, how many litres of tears did you shed while recording the new album? Probably 1 litre of tears. But I had plenty of litres of tears to call on from my past. Did you use a tambourine in Suffer? No. Or did we? Is that a lie? What else we got? Is White Horses a song? No, we can't read that one. Keep it classy, guys. Would you rather walk around with dirty shoes or with a completely bald and shaven head? Where did you come up with that question? Because it is absolutely fantastic. Hello Adam, how to overcome depression. This is obviously a big subject. I know a lot of people struggle with mental health problems. I've talked about mine in the past. And I can only say what works for me. And I think what works for me is I try to accept how I feel. And it is incredibly difficult to do. I'd say it's a skill that needs to be learnt over time. Emotions are fleeting. That is, they appear and then they disappear. They're not linear. They don't stay like this forever. They feel like they're going to, and that's unfortunately the awful thing about anxiety and depression, these powerful emotions, is that you think they're going to last forever because they feel catastrophic. I remember years ago anxiety being something I had terribly when I was younger. And I've never told this story before, but the way I overcame my anxiety was I used to have anxiety attacks every day, right up till 2017 maybe. And I used to constantly fight the anxiety. I used every technique that I could find. I was a classic self-help guy. I'd do everything I could, diet, exercise, meditation, everything I could to get rid of these problems. And that in itself is sometimes a problem, is that you realize you're telling yourself all the time that there is a problem that needs to go and that the problem is bad. And for me, it was only when I came across acceptance that I overcame my anxiety. And what happened was the anxiety attacks became so debilitating and problematic. They were happening every day, all the time. And I went to my friend's wedding in 2017, maybe 2016. And I remember I was having an anxiety attack. I'd been having one all day. And I remember sitting in this church and I was looking up at these huge windows with Christ on. This is not a religious story, but I was, however, in this church. And the bride and groom were about to come down the aisle. And I remember feeling so paralyzed by fear and anxiety, not because I was at a wedding, just an accumulation of anxiety that had been in me for 15 years. And I sat and I remember for the first time I gave in to my anxiety. I said to myself, this is so awful and I've tried everything. The only thing left to do is to stop trying. And in this moment, I remember putting my hands face up on my knees and I almost communicated with my anxiety and I said, if you're gonna harm me, just do it. It was almost like a direct conversation because we're always taught to fight our feelings so much. And in this moment, I just gave up. I decided I was done fighting. It had been 15 years, 16 years. And I remember putting my hands face up and I just completely let go of the fight. And something incredible happened. I felt the anxiety after about 30 seconds just leave my body. I now felt complete peace. And I think what happened was I stole the power of the anxiety. I took it away. For years previously to that, I'd been giving it power constantly by fueling it, feeding it, telling myself there was something wrong, trying to fix myself all the time. And in this moment, there was a release of letting go and saying, if you're going to hurt me, just do it. And the anxiety lost all its power. And I have to say, I've not had an anxiety attack since that moment. I've got to be careful when talking about mental health because I don't want to preach, certainly preach in general, but I don't want to preach that you should ever give up on anything. But when it comes to powerful emotions, there is certainly a tendency to try and fix everything. And I think sometimes self-acceptance can do a lot of the work for you. Some days you're going to feel bad, some days you're going to feel anxious, and this is life. This is part of your experience of being a human. And the more we can be with those feelings and accept that they come and go, they're not linear, they rise and fall. You're going to have good days and bad days, and as soon as you accept that, you can hopefully make some progress. And my experience of mental health is that I struggle with it every day, even now, all the time. But my life has got better since accepting it. So if anyone out there is suffering, I recommend doing some reading about acceptance. There's a book about anxiety written by someone called Claire Weeks who teaches this method of, it's called floating with anxiety. It's about releasing it as opposed to fighting it. I recommend this. And yeah, I thought I would mention some of these things because a lot of our fans I know are suffering, and it's good to, I don't want to stay silent on it. I've experienced, and in my experience, this is what worked for me, trying to be more accepting. Okay, question time. Let's do something fun. What have we got? Do you have some favourite woman characters in music or in movies? My favourite female character at the moment is the lead female character in the film Phantom Thread with Daniel Day-Lewis. She's a interesting character. I recommend that film to everyone, really. It's a great film and she's got an amazing character. Some great twists in that movie, so I recommend it. What about my dog? A lot of people ask about my dog, Ronnie. And the truth of it, not to tell another sad story, but the truth of it is my dog, I used to share my dog with my ex-girlfriend and we could no longer look after him when we separated. So my dog Ronnie went to live with her parents and he's having such a good time, and he lives in a beautiful part of the UK, and I live in London and it's not really suitable for a dog. So I haven't seen him for a long time because he's so happy and I don't want to confuse him. So yeah, my lovely dog Ronnie is no longer with me, but he's living his best life, be rest assured. Will there be a video for White Horses? I'd love there to be because it's one of my favourite songs. It's a song we actually wrote a few years ago. in a hotel room in Montreux in Switzerland. And I love this song. It comes quite late in the album, maybe track 10, 11 maybe, I can't remember. But for me, it could have been the first song on the album. It's one of my favourite songs we've ever written, for sure. And I love the sound of it, the production. I think it's going to be great to play live. So yeah, White Horses for sure is one of my favourite songs. Do I have flashbacks about worst moments that I've had in my life? Yes, of course. I try not to be too nostalgic when it comes to myself and even my work, to be honest. When it comes to the band, I'm not particularly nostalgic. I try to look forward, which can sometimes be detrimental. It's better to try and be in the present if you can, but I'm not perfect. I spend a lot of time lost in the future. But when it comes to looking back, I try not to have too many regrets. Everything has led me to this moment. You know, could I have made better decisions in my life? Of course, we all could, but I wouldn't say I wake up with regrets about anything. I've lived my life according to how I felt in that moment, and it might not have been right, but I did my best. Wow, this is heavy stuff. Hello from Czech Republic. All right, how's it going? Miss your country, love it. Do you have a tattoo? No, no tattoos. Thank you for the Masterpiece album. That's not a question, but I appreciate it. Do I cook? I don't think I've ever been asked this question before. Do I cook? I do cook. Am I a good cook? I would say I'm above average. So yeah, there you go. I'm a cook. Let me have a look at some more questions in this question box. Here we go. How is your search for a roommate going? It's going great. I'm not looking for one. I live alone and it is heaven. Revoltante, are you planning to release an instrumental version of Faith? I think if any of our albums were going to be made into an instrumental, it'd be this one. Because a few of the songs were written as instrumentals first. Sorry, maybe two of them. But I think a lot of them would work as instrumentals, so you never know. Let's see. A lot of questions here about my beard. Still in 2020, are we still talking about the beard? Is there a limit to my beard? That's from Emmy. Adam, how long have you not shaved? That's from Joan Like Daisy. I can't be arsed shaving. I just can't be arsed. It takes a lot of time to shave. Also, I think I'll just look a bit better with a beard than without one. Do I maintain it as perfectly as I used to? Probably not. But at a certain age, you just let go of things a little bit. And my beard is one of them. Let's have a look what else we got here. Adam, how do you like your coffee? Finally, a light question. Actually, don't drink coffee. What's next? Any other awkward interview stories? Apart from being called Andy, that was interesting. Interviews are usually pretty cool, to be honest. I think I've been really drunk a few times. I was very drunk once on national television in England and probably said some things I shouldn't. But apart from that, they're always fun. Quite like doing interviews in different countries. So yeah, what's my favourite movie? We've done that before. What else have we got? Extra points for whoever can ask the most interesting question at this stage. Plus, I'm happy to talk about the album if anyone's got some interesting questions. How do I like my eggs in the morning? Good one. Depends on the occasion. I want to say poached, but then I could equally say scrambled. So, it depends on the occasion. What is my guilty pleasure? No pleasure should be guilty. Enjoy yourself. How important are platonic connections to you? If we're talking about friendships, I think they are important. Often friendships are a gateway into intimacy when you perhaps don't have it with a partner. So in my case, I have a few friends, and I think it's very important to have people you can share things with that are close to you. I don't think it's practical to have too many friends and to try and please too many people, but certainly a big crow's just landed on my balcony. It's very apt. Maybe it's my conscience. The message, have friends, share intimate things with those friends. I think it's a good way to be in 2020. There's a lot of isolation and loneliness at the moment as well, so it's good to try and maintain friendships. What is my happiest memory from this year? That's from Petra. I would say the day the album came out. It's a very boring answer, but what a moment, because it's been many months of obviously international struggle, and you forget about your own pleasures slightly, and on the day it came out I felt very gratified and very, very happy with the work that we've done and super proud. So probably say the day the album came out. If you were a bird, what sort of bird you would be? That's from Rachel. I'd be a crow, and one just landed on my balcony, so must be fate. Crow. What do you and Theo have in common except second name? We both like football. What else? We both know exactly how to write a Hurt song. Two great things. Sport and work. Peppermint chewing gum, that's not a question. I'm not eating chewing gum today. Usually I do it when I get nervous, but free of it. CJ Brass, did you have a celebration on the release day of the album? I had a celebration for 3 days, mate, and it's a miracle that I'm still here. I haven't celebrated anything for about 1 year, so it was my first drink, and I enjoyed it a lot. And didn't enjoy the subsequent 3 days, but yeah, there was celebration. Thanks very much. Can there be a friendship between a woman and a man? From Alexandra, of course there can. A lot of my friends are women. There's no obstacle for a man and a woman not to be friends. In fact, I think it's a great thing. It's a great thing to increase empathy and understanding in each other, in the opposite sexes. We all go through different things. A man and a woman goes through different things in their life. It's good to share experiences and to be able to understand how people think. So a lot of my friends are women, and I love it, to be honest. Which famous person's death really upset you? Oh God, I think the one that got me the most was probably Prince, because Prince, there was no rumours of his ill health. There was no, at least I wasn't aware of it. I remember that day being so shocking. Me and Theo couldn't believe what had happened. We thought it was lies to begin with. I think that one was nasty. I mean, they all are, of course, Bowie, but that was a bit more expected. But I think the one that shocked me was Prince, because what a legend, you know. What else have we got? Let me have a look in the box again. When will I go back to my crazy stories on Instagram? To be honest, I'm quite happy off Instagram. My phone was stolen about 1 year ago, and I had a month without Instagram, and it was quite blissful, to be honest. And when I got a new phone, I'd sort of lost the connection and lost that sort of appetite to be posting all the time. So for me, my Instagram presence is limited, and that's just the way I like it. I like my privacy, and I quite enjoy my life away from social media. I'm sure some of you will agree that I've given a lot of myself in the past when it comes to social media. I mean, I've shown you everything, and it got to a point where there was nothing left to see, and there wasn't really much left for me. So you've had your taste of it, and now I'm afraid it's gone. So now I prefer to use Instagram in healthier ways. Anything that promotes connection and community, I'm on board with when it comes to social media. Anything that promotes jealousy, invasions of privacy, any bullying, harassment, any trolling, hate speech. Every time that happens, it just takes me further away from social media. It doesn't interest me at all. It's cowardly, and we all need to do better as a society when it comes to that. So social media, amazing, and now I choose to use it in the healthiest way possible, and I recommend that you all do the same. Phoning because I've run out of battery. Let's have a look here. Yeah. Tori, do you have nightmares? I actually have slept like a baby, touch wood, for my entire life. I've never, even amongst psychological drama, I've never had a problem sleeping. It's a miracle. I think I always think of sleep as an opportunity to rest, particularly if I feel mentally drained. I always think of sleep as my friend somehow. It's a chance for me to reset and have a breather. And so I've always had a great relationship with sleep, and I don't suffer from nightmares, but I know a lot of people do. My brother, maybe my brother's on this chat. If you are, I love you. My brother has insomnia, and it's a nightmare for him. He goes to bed about 8 a.m. every day, and it messes up his whole life in some ways. So I'm lucky, touch wood, that I sleep well. Why so many Russian fans? Just wondering because you're from the UK. That's from Lil. Well, my band Hertz is very popular in Russia. We have a great history there. We've been there many times. Great connection with Russia. We've been to so many cities, places most bands don't go. And yeah, so that's why there are so many people from Russia in these chats and on our Instagrams, because they're passionate and the feeling is reciprocated and mutual. Can you forgive? That's a good question, Tori. Maybe I'm like an elephant. I don't think I forget things. I think I always, if you harm me or you do me wrong, forgiveness is possible, but will I forget? Probably not. Probably to my detriment that I'm like that. I wish I was a bit more free with it, but I tend to remember things. I also remember names of people when it comes to anyone that's crossed me. So I guess, yeah, I can forgive to an extent, but I don't forget. What else have we got? Will you be playing Numb and Fractured on the 2021 tour? That's from Elena. My answer would be yes. I love both those songs. I think they'd be amazing live. I definitely would like to play both of them. They're two of my favourites on the record. I'll be honest, I quite like to play the whole record. So let's see what designing a set list for a tour is always complicated. You have to consider people's taste, 5 different albums, the type of story we want to tell at that moment. Our tour is the start of next year. Depends how we feel, what mood we're in. But I certainly would like to play some songs from our previous records that we've not played for a while. I'd like to play a song called Mercy, which is on Exile, which is our second album. What else would I like to play? The Road. I think you can see where this is going. I'd like to play some of the heavier, darker songs, and Numb and Fractured definitely are in that category. What was the inspiration behind the song Liar? It's good that you've asked that question. Sorry I missed your name just then, but it's one of my favourites on the album. What inspired the song Liar was we decided to go into the studio and limit ourselves to one piece of equipment to write a song. And we had this really, really old drum machine that had very few options. And I think Theo programmed the drum part actually. We sat there with this little machine and we programmed the simplest drum machine that the drum pattern that we could. And then we used this synth that was built into it. We had very few options. We really wanted to limit ourselves. And before we knew it, we had this very icy, very cold, very strange song. And of course, the lyric is quite strange in itself. And I actually love that one. Also has a guitar solo later in the song that I'm really proud of the sound of. It's a sound I've wanted to use for about 10 years. It's a tremolo distorted guitar that I love, so it was nice to get that in as well. So I'm glad you like that one. Any thoughts on the comparison to Depeche Mode? I mean, they're a great band and they influenced us a lot, particularly at the beginning of the band. I love a handful of their albums. Songs of Faith and Devotion, probably my favourite. What can I say? Great band. Impeccable songwriting. Amazing dynamic between two very different characters in the band. And if we achieve, a tenth of what they've done, we'd be happy. But yeah, I've always thought of us as our own thing, really. We're not indebted to any band in particular, but if we were going to say we were influenced by one band, that would be a good one. What else have we got? Let's have a look here. My Hogwarts house. I presume that's a Harry Potter question, but I've never seen a Harry Potter film. There's a fact for you. Question from Monica. Is it difficult to axe songs? For those who don't know, axe means get rid of from the set list to make room for new ones. For me, that's never an issue because I always tend to prefer the new songs. Not always, actually, but most of the time. It is tricky because we've got 5 albums now, so the tour set list next time is going to be difficult because there'll be some casualties, unfortunately. Some of the songs we played for a long time, we'll probably stop playing them and they'll be replaced by new ones, but hopefully you'll all be excited about hearing the new ones, so we shouldn't have too much problem. What was the inspiration behind Suffer? That's from Blitz Ace. Inspiration behind that song was a coffee machine. I think I've told this story before and I'll probably tell it again. There was a coffee machine in the studio that we were in and we were having a very unsuccessful day writing songs, and I turned on this coffee machine and it made the sound that the song starts with, this horrible, nasty sound, and instantly I thought we should just record it in because we had nothing else that day. And so we recorded this coffee machine sound, we looped it, and then I heard a drum part, and then within half an hour the song had some structure, and Theo wrote this great lyric, fantastic lyric, out of nowhere, and very quickly we had a song. But it's funny with inspiration, you never know where it's going to come from. The last thing I thought was that 2 of the songs on this album, Suffer, which was a coffee machine, and Voices, which was a microwave, would inspire entire tunes, but they did. So don't be afraid of using household appliances to influence your creativity. Let's see what else we got. What's the last thing you bought for yourself that made you happy? I have to say, and I'm not saying this to gain points for humility, but Theo and myself are not very materialistic at all when it comes to buying things. Sometimes I treat myself to a taxi. But I have to say, I think it's partly because of where we came from. We came from not having any money for years, and I think we both have retained somehow this humility. We don't really spend much money. We're not really flash with our money. We don't spend much on we don't have cars, for example. We don't go on too many holidays. We're pretty modest. Theo eats a lot of the same food he always ate. Maybe I buy slightly better bread, but I still think we're not particularly materialistic. So when it comes to spending money, perhaps we spend it on equipment. We certainly spend a lot of money on touring, because it costs a lot of money to take so many people on the road and put on a great show for you guys. So yeah, not big spenders. Olia, have you ever considered retiring from music? Good question. How did you do the sound of the heavy breathing in Numb? From Zen. Great name, Zen. Very peaceful. You just breathe into a mic, mate. Very simple. I can't remember who did it. I think Theo did it and he got lightheaded afterwards because it was quite a lot of breathing. There's actually a lot of breathy human voices hidden in that song Numb that you can hear. If you are a detective, you could probably find them all. What else have we got? Let's have a look. I'm gonna do 15 more minutes. Some of these questions. Name suggestions for a child. Bartholomew, Maximus, if they're men. Have you ever considered an anniversary release for Happiness? That's from One for the Record. I think, as I mentioned earlier, we're not that nostalgic, Theo and myself. Maybe when it gets to 20 years, we'll do it. Time has flown so fast, it doesn't feel like it deserves it in one way, because it seems so recent to me still. I think maybe 20 years we'll celebrate it, but 10 doesn't feel like enough time, really. The most beautiful memory from your childhood. Wow, intense. I was really popular with girls when I was about 7 years old. I remember for like 7 to 9 years old, before I became deeply unattractive physically, I was this beautiful little kid, and I have a memory of being in a field and having loads of girls chase around me and put daisies are small flowers. They made them into necklaces and they were putting these necklaces over me like I was some sort of child prince. And when I think back to my childhood, I think, wow, I was really at my peak when I was 7, and it's been very much downhill ever since. So I'd probably say being surrounded by girls, putting daisy chains on me was a very sweet moment from my youth. How many Russian visas do I have? I'm telling you, I've been in the Russian visa office in London so many times that they high-five me when I go in. Unbelievable. What else have we got? I'm sure we got some more interesting ones. Witty form, are you self-conscious? Very much so. I actually find I get more self-conscious the older I get. That never leaves. In some ways, as you get older, you gain confidence, you gain an ability to not panic in certain situations that you do when you're younger. I definitely think age helps in certain aspects. You could put me in a room full of people and I can survive. For example, when I was 20, I would be petrified, socially anxious, and I'd want to leave. So some things get easier when you get older, but a bit of self-consciousness, I think that always is present in some people with certain character makeups, and I think I'm a self-conscious person, of course, which is why I'm so happy to be internationally present at this moment on a social network. David Whistle, what do you do with your old clothes? Are you a hoarder? Mate, I've got too many clothes. I've got too many. I never throw them away. Some of them I've not even worn. So when it comes to that, I'm a hoarder for sure. I can't throw them away. I'm a big fan of clothes, vintage clothes, one-off pieces that are special to me. I collect them and I keep them. A lot of them are in bags under my bed. Some are in picture frames because I love them so much. So yeah, clothes are something. If I was going to collect one thing, it would be clothes. Any more questions on the album? What is your favourite album cover and why? if we're talking a Hertz album cover, I think the first album, maybe I've not told this story before, but the first album cover is made up of two images. It's Theo and myself separated. The pictures were taken separately, half an hour apart, and then they were put together. And it was the first time that I'd been photographed, because I'd been making music in my bedroom for 10 years. I had no idea about fame or the process of a photography shoot, for example. I had no idea. And I remember being in the studio terrified and walking down the stairs onto the set and seeing about 30 people, lights everywhere, everyone looking at me, judging me, analysing me. And I just remember thinking, this is not for me. And I sat down at this table, and the picture that you see on the Happiness album cover, the reason I look so stern and almost angry and annoyed is because I did feel those things. I was thinking to myself, what are you doing? This is not what you're built for. You should be in a bedroom making music. You don't need your photograph taken. And my response to that feeling was to look super serious, and the image that, when I look at that image, I always see that a lot of people probably think, oh, he looks really cool and mysterious. But for me, I was terrified, and it was just a reaction to how I was feeling. So I think that cover for me is always special because I know what it means when I look at it. There was a lot of fear, but it comes across as something completely different. And I think that was really where I got my reputation for being miserable from, that album cover. But I think it's a beautiful photograph. Lawrence Ellis took it. He's an amazing photographer, and it's timeless, that cover, as is all the album photography, completely timeless. So I would probably say that one. Who designed the logo for Faith? We did. Tell us something about creating White Horses. That's from Lend Wings. White Horses, it's actually a song that we've taken a few years to finish. It began in a hotel room in Montreux in Switzerland a few years ago. And I always think the best songs, the ones that we don't use, the very best of those always stay with us somehow, and we always think, how can we use them in the future? For example, Somebody to Die For, which is a lot of people's favourite songs off the second album. We had that during Happiness, and we were always like, we need to use the song, and we never did. But on Exile, we found a moment. So White Horses is another case of that. It was an older song that we kept coming back to because of the feeling in it. And then really on this album, it became a monster, a beast, something bigger than it had ever been before. I'm incredibly proud of that song. I think it's super powerful. I think there's an intensity to it that a type of song that we've never really written before. Hopefully we can play it live. And it's slightly hidden on the album, being right near the end there, but for me it's a vital song. It's one of my favourites. What inspired the song Slave to Your Love? That's a good question from, I can't pronounce your name, Pininja. That's definitely wrong. Let's call you Nija. Maybe the P is silent. Apologies if it's not. What inspired Slave to Your Love? That again was an older piece that was actually lost. My computer exploded a few years ago, and we lost this beautiful demo that we'd made. And we were very, very devastated because it was a very hard song to rebuild. They weren't generic sounds, they were complicated sounds. But again, it was a piece it was only a minute long, and it stayed with me, and I was always like, we need to come back to this song because there's something special in it. And again, that song is one of the most powerful on the album, perhaps. There's some great strings done on that song, by the way, by a guy called David Rossi. He's on Instagram. Very talented guy, and he helped me arrange a string section. It's another song that I love. I mean, I could pick any of these songs off the record and make a case for it being my favourite, but yeah, that song started in a couple of years ago, and then it went through various stages, including being lost. So it's really, if any song deserves to make it to an album, it's that one. Will there be a deluxe version of Faith? Probably. We have a lot of content, as you can see. It'd be nice to do a special edition, so I'm sure there'll be more to come with regards to that over the next few months. A couple of questions here from Beatrice about Fractured, what inspired us to write it. The inspiration on that day, we wrote it in one day, was when you take the front down off a piano, you can see the strings inside the piano, and in a sense it becomes like a guitar. And I remember taking a piece of metal, I took the front off my piano and I went and I plucked these strings, and they went dun 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 dun, and I realized that it was the basis for something. And very quickly we made this backing track, and then Theo wrote these incredible words. I think the words on Fractured are some of my favorite on the album, and they're slightly hidden because they're whispered, obviously, but if you read those words, they're as good as it gets, I think. And the song was a super fun day. It was a great experience writing that song because it's wild. It's a very unhinged song. It's not one that we ever planned, and it brings out a manic part of our personality, a less controlled version, which is sometimes cool. So it began with that plinking sound from a piano, which you can do yourself if you take the front off the piano and pluck it with some metal. Was there ever a time when you and Theo's views on a song were radically different? I can't pronounce your name, I'm afraid. Of course that happens, but most of the time, it's a boring answer, but most of the time we agree on what a Hurt song is. We have, Theo sits one side with his personality, I sit the other with mine, and we don't really have to communicate what makes a Hurt song. It's right in the middle of the two of us. And we actually rarely fall out when it comes to a song. We don't often disagree. Theo knows probably instinctively if I'm going to like something, and vice versa. So I think it's actually very harmonious. Making the music is actually remained a harmonious thing for us to do together. Like, we have no problems working together when it comes to making music. So it's always been like that. We know what makes a Hurt song, thankfully. I'm going to answer a couple more questions, then I'm going to get off because my left arm is currently completely numb from holding this phone. Poor me. So, Cat Lego, why did you name the band Hurts? There was two options. Theo had both options, and I don't think I should reveal what the other option was, but there was another one. But I think Hurts was just it was something we never discussed. I remember in our previous band, we used to brainstorm band names. We used to write down hundreds on a page and pick the best one. And with Hurts, it was just like, oh, should we call ourselves Hurts? And it was yes. And then that was it. Sometimes it's like, I guess, naming a baby, you know when you got it right, and it just felt right. How about a tripod for your phone, mate? I've been considering that in the last few seconds, and you raised some interesting points, and I wish you'd raised them an hour ago. What else we got? Let's do a couple more. I'm going to try and find a couple of meaningful questions to answer before I leave. We'll see about that. Thank you so much for Darkest Hour. It's everything I needed from Sigrid of the Sun. Darkest Hour is a good moment to end this interview, really. It was also a perfect song to end the album. I'm really pleased that a lot of you are getting to the end of the album and really finding meaning in that song. That song was written towards the end of the process of making the album. It could have been the last song, I can't remember exactly, but it came after All I Have to Give and Redemption, while we were in that feeling. And Theo was in a great moment with his lyrics and his melodies. And I think it's a beautiful song. And it was important to end the album on hope. And the belief in that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a very dark album in many parts. I'm sure a lot of you enjoy that about it, but you need a bit of hope sometimes, and that song was the perfect way to end the album. I'm really glad that a lot of you resonate with that song and its meaning. It's a very understated song in many ways until the 50 guitars that I ruined it with come in. But yeah, it's one of my favourites, and we're really happy that you all like it too. Okay, so I think I'm going to finish now because, yeah, I can't feel my hand. But I hope I answered some of your questions. If I didn't get to you, that's probably my limitations with technology, but I did my best, and hopefully we'll get to do this again in the future. I want to say thanks to everyone for your words with regards to the album. The reception is just the best we've ever had, I think, for any of our albums. I'm really grateful to everyone who's bought it, listened to it, told anybody about it. Please continue to do so. We would be nothing really without the support of you guys, and although I don't say it often, I do really appreciate it, and it's made my life better in every way imaginable. So my gratitude extends to you, and I appreciate it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get to see you soon. Wow, my fingers look weird with these on. Hopefully we get to see you soon on tour. I can't wait to be playing again, and it'd be great to play this album. Can't wait to play these songs live. So yeah, that's it. Goodbye. I'm going to save this in case anyone missed it and wants to watch it back. I won't be doing that, but if you want to.